You've had Wendy's nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new saucy nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo or honey barbecue, garlic parm, or if you're a real heat seeker out there, you can try spicy ghost pepper only on Wendy's signature spicy nugs. Listen, I'm going to dare you to do it. I dare you. That's 7 delicious ways to try the nugs that you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and then grab a few more napkins and prepare to nug like you've never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's got to be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's.
What's up, Cal fans? We are back with another episode of the Golden Bearcast, a proud partner of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. This episode is sponsored by Hop Water. Not actually, but I'm still going for it. Rob, what's the email? What's our email?
goldenbearcast@gmail.com.
Hop Water, goldenbearcast@gmail.com. Let's make this happen. I have the nice citrus, blood orange, hoppy hop water with me right now. Feel really chilled out. Mellowed out. It's great.
Don't we have a higher chance of getting that if we actually email them instead of hoping that they listen to our podcast?
100%. 100%. But now we get to email them and say, we've been mentioning you guys for weeks on end.
Free advertising.
Anyways. I digress. We digress. My name's Andy. We got Rob with me, who we just heard. We played Wake Forest this past weekend on a Friday night. Felt kind of spooky. Felt
in a place
little
called
bit
Winston-Salem too. So yeah, definitely spooky.
Dude, I'm actually glad you brought that up. That campus is straight up Hogwarts. Easily one of my favorite places that I visited while I was touring colleges. Like without
it looks it
hesitation.
Too.
It's so cool. It's so cool. And 5,000 students. If I were to, I wish I had actually, I didn't even consider it. I didn't consider it. I just went. My high school was on the East Coast. So I went to a bunch of places I wasn't going to go. I went to Duke. I went to UNC. I went to Elon. I went to Davidson, Wake Forest. I think there might have been one more in there. And I just wrote all of them off. NC State. Went to NC State as well. I really liked NC State, actually. It was a cool campus. But yeah, I was like, I'm not going to any of these. This is way too far. What am I doing? But Wake Forest was so cool. And I did wish that if it was easier to get to, that I could have made my way out there. I think it would have been super fun.
It's always cool when you get to see like a stadium that has like an open one side. It's like a horseshoe style, and then they have that like grass area where people can sit and things like that. I think it's like and the red exposed brick looks really cool. It just feels like it has character. It does not. It's not like a super modern cookie cutter stadium, right?
Do we know the capacity on that stadium?
That's a good question. We can look it up right now.
They had I'm just gonna say they had a Cal crowd.
Yeah.
The broadcast did such a good job at not showing the stands, and then finally I saw it, albeit it was right at when we had pushed the lead back up, so it wasn't totally representative, but it looked a little empty.
Yeah, the entire side across from the media press box was just like, it was sparse, right?
Yeah.
Size of Allegacy Stadium is 31,500.
Yeah, because the thing is, with a student population of 5,000,
yeah, that's tough.
You can't really fill that thing. I mean, it's a very interesting experiment in.
Oh wow! I learned something new from Wikipedia right now. The stadium opened in 1968, holds 31,500 people. It is the smallest football stadium by permanent capacity in both the ACC and all Power 5 conferences.
I think
sounds right.
Wake Forest, correct me if I'm wrong, is the smallest school with a football program and a basketball program in any of the Power 5 conferences from a student count perspective.
Maybe I don't see anything of that note, but it could easily be that case.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
5,000 is not much, man. That's D3.
Yeah. Students, yeah. I'm looking at it. Students overall is 8,900. Undergrads 5,400 as of fall 2022. Postgraduates 3,500 as of fall 2022. So yeah, definitely a smaller university.
I said Power 5, but I think it's now Power 4.
It is now Power 4. Yeah, you are correct.
But Washington State and Oregon State are both bigger than that.
Yeah.
Well, what did you think, Rob? I mean, I meant to ask you this. Do you have my text messages handy?
I do have your text messages handy.
I thought there might be a series of 3 messages that were sent.
There is. So Andy, for people that don't know, Andy texts me during games, and usually when it's in the middle of a breakdown of our team on the field or on TV, Andy will text me. I will purposefully see it and not respond because I know he is going through the emotions, and I know where I stand in my emotions, and I just need him to let it ride it out. And this is what happens. At 7:30 on Friday on Friday night. So 2.5 hours into the game. This is like watching the same game. At 7:44, I can breathe again. At 8:05, back to suffocation. 8:25, of course we go run with the game on the line and 0 success all night on the ground. And then a few days later, today or earlier this morning, late last night, I started Super Mario Odyssey tonight, and that is unbelievably fun. So the roller coaster of emotions that I get of text messages from Andy is just I need to make this into like a memoir, like just has screenshots of Andy's text messages to me.
I stand by that play call text so hard. What the hell, dude? Game on the line, and we've been passing all night. And we went run, pass. It's just ridiculous. I understand what the situation is. You have to burn clock, but at least do something like a screen or something coming out of the backfield that isn't just trying to run through the middle of their defensive line, which hasn't worked the entire evening.
Yeah, it was.
Anyways,
it's questionable for sure, but it's something we can definitely get into. But I mean, what are we talking about first? Where are we going?
Well, I just think. Well, where was your head throughout the evening? Because obviously I was a little bit all over the place, and I think a lot of people were. But I'm curious to hear, with your disclaimer that you're able to keep a more level head throughout all of this stress.
I weirdly was not worried all game. I was perfectly fine. Nam can attest to this because we watched the game together, and Avi as well. But of course there's moments of frustration. But I think overall, I didn't see us losing the game. I thought even if they took the lead, late when we were up by were we up by 3 at that point?
Yep.
Even at that point, I was like, look, even if they score, I think we've been passing so well that they're not going to be able to stop us. And then of course they get the ball back, and then Liam Johnson gets that interception, and then I was like, yeah, there's the game.
Yep.
Yeah, there were moments of frustration for sure, but overall, I think I was perfectly fine. It wasn't like a, oh shit, here we go again. It didn't feel like Miami to me.
What?
By any means? Yeah,
it felt
for
like
me, it didn't.
That's it. That's wild.
Yeah,
because it's so different than my experience watching this game. This was every single game that I've seen this season. And this is NC State. This was Pitt. This was Miami. It was right there. Everything. All the same things. Yeah. When it was 4th and 10 and they picked it up, I was like, oh yeah, no problem. 4th and 10, might as well have been 4th and 1. Of course they convert. I just think that I've watched. I had seen this movie before, and I am very surprised to hear not so much that you thought we were going to win the entire time, because so did I, but there was definitely a point where that was in question. And I think when we went 3 and out and we punted and gave them the ball, that if they had scored there, like I'm gonna say touchdown, and we're down, no chance do I think we're winning that game. No chance. We're just in our head. And we've had drives. It's not like some of these losses, like where we haven't had a drive where NC State with the missed field goal, we ended up getting the ball back and we didn't do anything with it. Like Pitt or Miami, I think we ended up losing that game because like they came all the way back, but the game ended with the ball in our hands. So we've seen that scenario play out before. And I agree with you. I didn't necessarily see them stopping the pass that well, but I just don't know if you get to a point where it's like, wow, we've now done this again, and mentally, can you come up with that clutch drive? And at that point, it would have to be a touchdown. You're talking about having to get a touchdown, and with how much we've struggled in the red zone to get tutties, like I think personally, I think it would have been really hard. I don't know. I think you're just like, anyways, we're way too far down this tangent, but like, I think it's mentally a pretty big step up from protect the lead. And I looked at it. I watched the Warriors game last night. Warriors were up 34 and ended up getting, I think they got it close. It was like 6 or 9. The Thunder came all the way back. But I just said to myself, I was like, thank goodness they were up 34 and not up 26. It's like, the mental gymnastics or the mental challenge that you have to take from blowing a 26-point lead to tied versus 34 to a 9-point lead. Like, I think or am I doing math right? 8-point lead. I think you're asking a different thing from somebody, and we have yet to prove that going through that full emotional roller coaster at the other end, we're ready to step into that moment. Doesn't mean that we can't go down the field like at Pitt with the game on the line, get into field goal position, or NC State, get into field goal position. Like, doesn't mean that, but it certainly, I don't know. I think it would have been a challenge.
No, I could definitely see that. I think hindsight also being 2020, it's like the fact that we still secured the win this time, I think does help a little bit in that regard, that we now have that experience of winning and maintaining a lead late into the game and closing it out, whether it be offensively or defensively. I think the team as a whole didn't have that moment for the last 5-6 games. The Oregon State game was like a blowout from the get-go, right? It was never going to be real close. So I think getting over the demons, pun intended, in this game definitely, I think, helped out, and probably will. And I guess we'll get a better glimpse of that this week against Syracuse, next week against in the big game, and then to end the season at SMU.
I think that I really hope we can roll into the Syracuse game with a good amount of momentum. I'm very curious what this game looks like. I don't have a good read on it. NC State's such a tough one to figure out, that game. And having Syracuse beat them, and then also beating Virginia Tech, who played Miami really well. Yeah. And, they got absolutely stomped by Pittsburgh, but it's going to be an interesting game. I expect it to be close. And I think this is a little bit of a hot take, but I also think the big games can be closer than we would like. And I say that knowing and hoping that it's not. But I will say, Rob, to wrap this up on a nice positive note, we won out of a bye week. We should celebrate that.
Yep.
That's a big deal.
Yep.
The offense looks really good. And so I think we should use this as a transition, take a little bit of a break, and then when we come back, we'll go into stat readout.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
The holiday season officially starts when you get that first card in the mail. Shutterfly makes it easy to add more meaning to the everyday with hundreds of holiday card designs that can be personalized in seconds with your favorite photos from this year. Select your greeting, customize the color, and even add little extras like personalized foil to make a holiday card that really shines. Enjoy 40% off with code SMILE40 at Shutterfly.com and send something meaningful this year. See site for more details.
All right, so let's get into the stats a little bit. Before we get into the stats, though, let me do the stats first, and then I'll talk about some game notes. Bears win 46-36. Bears, of course, led behind the play of one Fernando Mendoza. 56 attempts, 40 completions, 2 tutties, 1 interception, 385 yards, took 3 sacks. Cal rushing. Mendoza actually led the team in rushing as well, 66 yards gained, 15 lost on 10 attempts with a touchdown. Javian Thomas with the other rushing touchdown. Receiving wise, Mikey Matthews, I think he had 8 targets for 8 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown. Najee Hunter with 5 for 75, and Tobias Merriweather coming back and playing his first game this season with 6 catches and 52 yards. Also playing today, this past week was Ohio State transfer Keon Grace with 2 catches for 22 yards. Defensively, the Bears, Miles Williams had 8 total tackles. Hunter Barth probably is going to be the pick for MVP, either for myself or Andy, with 7 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble on that. Was it a kickoff? It was a kickoff return, right? Yeah, kickoff return. Yep. Xavier Carlton playing like a madman this season. It's not spoken enough about. 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. I believe he's top 10 in the country for sacks this season so far.
He's double digits now, right?
Yeah, he's double digits. David Reese also 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 3 total tackles, and 2 pass breakups. And then, of course, Noah Williams with another interception. I believe that pushes his season total to 7 or 8. I have it in the game notes, so I'll get to that in a second. The last thing, of course, is our 2 kickers. So Derek Morris basically was kicking anything inside 40 yards, and Ryan Coe was basically kicking anything outside of 40 yards, and they made all 4 of their kicks. So Derek Morris makes a 29-yarder and a 38. Ryan Coe, Dallas aptly named him Coe the Toe, with a 54-yarder that banked in right off the inside edge of the goalpost, and then another one from the exact same distance out in the 4th quarter to wrap up the game. Lastly, some game notes. So this is it's just some historical notes. Cal's, of course, first recorded ACC win. Cal has now won its 4th straight game played in November, dating back to its final 3 regular season games of 2023. So we have aptly named November, Nandovember. That is now the official name of the month of November for Cal fans. Ryan Coe made 2 54-yard field goals, one shy of the record of 55 yards shared by Robbie Keane in 1988 and Tom Schneider in 2006. Mendoza completed 56 passes. The passing yards were the most by a Cal quarterback since Jack Murmer had 406 at USC on November 5th. Mendoza's 56 passing attempts were the most since Davis Webb had 57 against Stanford in 2016. What's crazy is that 56 doesn't even, we looked this up on the stat book, 56 doesn't even get Mendoza into the top 7.
Because of the sunny years?
Yeah. Do you know what number 1 is? I just found this out on Saturday or Friday when we were watching the game. Number 1 is Davis Webb, 62 passing attempts against San Diego State.
Yeah, love it.
The last one, or the last cool note, Noel Williams recorded his 7th interception in the 3rd quarter to extend his national lead and move into a tie for 7th on Cal's all-time single-season list with 5 others. Williams' 7 interceptions are the most by a Cal player in any single season since Damian Hughes had 8 in 2006. Williams is also only 2 interceptions shy of Delta O'Neal's single-season school record of 9 in 1999, which he has 3 games to pick up.
I was going to say, Delta O'Neal was I was going to fun fact that, but...
Yeah, so he has 3 games to pick up 2 more, which I think he can do.
Yeah, I think he can. That's amazing.
And yeah, that's it.
There's one other stat, which is they had it on the broadcast. I believe it's Cal quarterbacks in the last 20 years to pass in consecutive games for 350 yards or more. I think it's consecutive games. It could be not, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And it was Jared Goff, Davis Webb, Fernando Mendoza. Pretty elite
high
company.
praise. High praise. Another fun stat that I looked up. Do you know what the last time that Cal football and Cal men's basketball won all their games in a single week?
Men's and women?
Just men's. I didn't look up the women's. So men's basketball with football.
No. All I know is Knowlton was unbelievably happy on the mid-game interview.
It was back in 2016. So when Cal beat UCLA in football, they had Cal basketball, men's basketball won their 2 games that week. So that was the last time, because you know how it only overlaps in the month of November. So last time that happened, nearly a decade ago.
And that was honestly, 2016 wasn't even a good year, football-wise.
Yeah, it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
5-7. Can we do a readout of our running game, please?
Yeah. So you want total, you want player by player or total team?
Player by player.
Player by player. Javian Thomas, 5 carries, 34 yards, 1 loss, net 33, 1 touchdown, average of 6.6 with a long of 16. Jay Knott, 14 carries, 33 yards gained, 10 yards lost, net 23, average of 1.6, and a long of 19. And then Mikey Matthews had a jet sweep for 9 yards.
What about Nando?
I thought you want. I already read his, so I thought you didn't need his. But Nando, 10 attempts, 66 yards gained, 15 lost, so net of 51 with a touchdown, average of 5.1 with a long of 24. I believe that number is not sack adjusted. So that's why there's the loss of 15.
And also, he also took a touchdown away from himself.
That's too.
Slightly overthought that situation.
Yeah, he. I don't know if you saw the postgame presser with Nando, but he was there with Tobias, and I think that one of the funniest lines when someone asked him about that was "Yeah, if I was smart like Tobias, I would have scored the touchdown. You know, not all of us can go to Notre Dame and Cal." And he just kind of smiled. I thought that was a great answer.
It's a great answer. Well, I'm going to ask you a question I didn't even prep you on. Is Javian Thomas RB1 for the rest of the season?
If Jaden's not healthy, I think he should be. I think that's the simplest answer.
I'm saying health, everything included. I don't know. If they're
If Jaden's
both fully
healthy, I still think if Jaden's healthy, I still think he's RB1. But I think the running attack question doesn't fall merely on the shoulders of the running backs. It's not like our offensive line is like creating these huge holes for them to run through, and they're always picking the wrong hole, or they're like, trying to make, what should be a simple 4-yard carry into like an 8 or 9 yard, and we lose the ball and whatnot. Like I think we have severe issues at in run blocking. I don't think it's a scheme issue, in my opinion. I think it's an execution issue. I think we haven't really gotten production out of certain guys that we expected more production out of. And then now it's like we're plugging guys in other spots, trying to see if that'll work. Like we're moving Vadakani to left guard, TJ Sessions in at right guard so that we can start Frederick Williams at right tackle. And we're just like, we're mixing and matching right now to see if we can get a spark on the offensive line in some way. Maybe that happens for the rest of the season, but by I think probably the NC State game, it's like, yeah, this is the team that we have. It's that our pass pro's not bad, but our run blocking is god awful, and we're just gonna have to throw the ball in order to win games.
Which also means it's so out of character for what we even saw, like I want to say last year. Right? Because Jaden ran for 1,300 yards last year. And we had Afonso on top of that. So to have this really
but there's caveats to that, right? Like it's not a 1-for-1. Like Jaden didn't miss a single game last year.
No.
And I think having a left tackle in Braden Miller, who ended up being probably like a B tier left tackle in college football, and then dropping from that to a first year starter, Nick Morrow, has not helped in the regards of the run blocking scheme.
It's funny from the watching on television. I feel like Nick Morrow is really solid in pass protection, but I don't actually know, like from PFF or anything like that. But he's skinny. He's skinny.
He's a tight end that transitioned into a left tackle, and he's still growing into this. Our pass pro numbers aren't bad at all. They've been cleaned up as the season's progressed. But run blocking, though, has been awful all year, and it hasn't progressed at all. And so there are reasons for that. So that's why I just can't put it on the running backs just purely for this. Of course, there are moments of play calls where I'm like, all right, well, outside zone is working. Why aren't we running more outside zone? I'm not in the analytics boxes. Like, I don't know what they see that I don't. But there's moments where I'm like, well, why? I don't get why. If that worked, if Jet runs an outside zone run and they run it for like 8 to 15 yards, like, why are we going to an inside handoff like the following play? Maybe it's a stamina thing. They don't want their offensive linemen, because they don't have other guys to rotate in. They want to protect some of these guys for the long haul of the game. I don't know. But there's definitely a lot of factors into this, and not just like one specific player or one specific type of play or like, any of that. And then one of the other things I was talking to Nam about too was like our inability to stretch the field down the field vertically has sat safeties closer into the box, which makes it more difficult to run between the tackles. And I think you saw a glimpse of that being alleviated when Tobias and Keon were in the game, because Keon started to take corners and they started to take the deep safeties away, even though he was only running like a 15-yard like sit down route. Like, they were worried about his speed over the top. So he's taking a corner out. He's taking a safety with him outside of the box. They're probably set up a few yards back now because they're afraid of that speed over the top, which also not only opens up a less numbered box, but also the underneath routes, which is why Mikey Matthews, I think, had such a great game on Friday night. Because a lot of the underneath routes and a lot of the little, like, if they would run like the clear outs, right? So like you'd see the goes or like the posts, and then the inside guys would just run like an out. And because they had created all that space from the go route, those out routes for Nizia and Mikey Matthews and Jonathan Brady were there all night long. And that's kind of what we took. So like it's like that was my like big what if. Like, what if we had these guys all season? When they come back, are we going to see that it wasn't a scheme issue, but that we didn't have the right personnel to execute some of that scheme to be able to create the spaces that they wanted and get guys in space? And I feel like we saw that in Wake Forest.
I think everything you said is very well articulated, super valid. And the one thing that I will say is that Jaden, and we'll just go right into this, is that Jaden doesn't look decisive at all when he has the football in his hands running the ball. And I also thought there was a play where he got into not quite into the secondary, but basically into the linebackers, and he had a lane where he could have bounced it out. And, I think I remember him getting taken down by an arm tackle. And I think if he got through that arm tackle, I'm pretty sure he was taking it to the house. So I don't know if that's health related, but there is a certain tentativeness that exists with him right now when he's getting the football. And it's probably because he doesn't have a ton of faith that there's going to be a lane. But it seems like when Jet gets the handoff, he just goes. And Jaden, which is something that we have long credited him with, is excellent vision. So he won't necessarily, like, he'll actually wait a little bit. We're talking about nanoseconds here, right? But there's just a little bit more observation that takes place, and then using the burst to get through that hole. It just doesn't seem to be there. And so that's really where that question came from. Is I know Jaden has the talent, but at this point, I don't know. I think if I had my way, I'd probably have Jaden be more of a pass catcher, and get him in space versus forcing him to be behind the line, because he's not making quick decisions, and usually he's running what feels like immediately into traffic and just not having any success. And again, I'm with you on the O-line, but I don't know. I don't know if you can necessarily make the case that running the football like Javian Thomas is a huge step down the rest of the season.
No, I think you're right. I mean, it clearly looks like Jaden's still not at 100%. I think if you go back and watch the tape, and it's something I noticed over the last few weeks when he's played, he doesn't have the one cut. If you watch him play, like he does not cut back. And that's why I'm like afraid of like putting him in pass catching situations as well, because if you put him on a swing route, the moment he catches the ball, the one thing he has to do is to sidestep out of the way of whoever's crashing down on him, whether it be a safety or a corner. But I don't think he has that one cut in him right now. And that's probably what's like adding to the fact that he can't get past into the line, is because we've watched a good amount of football, you and I both. Like, the best running backs that you see is like, you see the blocker coming, then you're sidestepping out into another lane. Like, once you get past that first gap, right? But he's not able to do that right now. I think he has the vertical speed, but I don't think he has the side to side movement. And whether that's a mental thing because he was injured, or if it's like that's just his body at this point is unable to do that, maybe that's the case. But like, I do see him sometimes on the sideline, like before the second half starts, and you see him do like the side to side jump cut workouts with the strength and conditioning staff. Like, I saw that a few weeks ago, and I thought maybe that was what it was. He's constantly testing that thing, and maybe he just doesn't fully believe in his body yet, because he was injured, came back, and then got re-injured, right? So maybe that's what it is. But yeah, I mean, it's clear he's not himself. Or at least like he's not at 100%. So for me, that's why I can't fault him for his inability to play this year. But yeah, I think if all things considered, if he really isn't that healthy, I think Jet should be getting the bulk of the carries. I think some of the other younger guys as well. I think Jamal Wiley had a couple good showings the last few weeks as well. We'll see if that changes over the next few weeks. But, Jaden's such a competitor that I think if he's able to go, he's going to want to go. And so, especially with 5 wins now and the ability and with the schedule being so light, at least the next 2 weeks, like the ability to maybe go to 7-5, go on a 4-game win streak to go into Dallas to try and upset a potential top 10 team and SMU and play the spoiler. Like, I think it gets the blood pumping a little bit. That's my take.
All right. I love that take.